Gilmore.
Mr Speaker, unlike some parts of my family, there's never been a Gilmore to be blessed the grounds of Christ College, and I suspect that in the next 7 generations there probably will not be either. But, Mr Speaker, I actually think in the 160 years history of Christchurch and of Christ College has represented all the things that are good and bad in Christchurch. You see, in my own little world, I attended a school on the other side of town called Shirley Boys, we always had constant battles on the rugby field against Christ College and occasionally on the cricket field. But it brings me great pleasure to stand here today and support this bill progressing further through this House. Christ College has an enviable reputation in Canterbury and indeed in New Zealand, and this bill actually will help enhance that. I just heard jokingly before that left-handed shooters will no longer receive scholarships. As a left-handed shooter, I'm a bit devastated by that, I must say, Mr Speaker, but I believe that this bill actually brings in place a tidy-up and change in legislation of the intent that I believe the people who made these bequests would be very happy to do so. Mr Speaker, one of the interesting things about this bill, in terms of what may happen in the future, there are similar bills that have been before this House that I had the pleasure of working on, in particular around some of the tidy-up of similar trusts around the Anglican and Catholic societies which had a large amount of trust with small amounts of money, and that this bill goes in a very similar way to tidy up those bits of uncertainties that may exist and apply them to things that make sense. And it was good to see the Select Committee actually put forward some of those tidy-up changes around the Charitable Trust Act, which the same problem existed with the Anglican and the Catholic bill that came before the House. And it's actually also wonderful that this bill's been brought by the wonderful member Nicky Wagner, who I know has spent many years actually living very close in and around the area around Christ College, and has had it's been very close to her heart, the land and issues around it. But I want to share a little story about Christ College, and it's the one that I remember vividly. I had the misfortune of playing a cricket game there a number of years ago, and it was a two innings game, and the first innings I was out first ball, which was actually very embarrassing, Mr Speaker. But I had the very great fortune. Yes, it was very embarrassing. But the second innings of the game, I managed to get 100 not out, and that will always remember in the back of my head the story that I have around Christ College and how a great school it really is. And the person who actually bowled me out in the first ball ended up playing for New Zealand in cricket, and there was one of the great players of Christ College. And the reason why I didn't get out in the second innings because he actually tore a ligament and couldn't actually bowl for the second innings. So I was very happy with that, Mr Speaker. But now I have a 7-year-old son, and we constantly drive past Christ College, and one of the things he always says, he calls it the Harry Potter School. Because some of you may know the grand hall that exists there in Christ College, and are very similar to the grand hall that's used in the Harry Potter movies. And the fact that survived post the earthquake that the Rahui mentioned earlier on, I think was a really interesting example of how great that school is, how well it was built, and that these funds from this bill can be applied to the school in the future to send other students there to get the benefit of the great education that school provides. And I look forward to actually more good students coming out, and Dr Michael Cullen, as you point out, was one, as was Robbie Deans, one of the great Canterburyans who's been lent to Australia to basically ruin his career in blotting book before he comes back and takes Canterbury and the Crusaders on to another 7 Super 12 titles, which I think it will happen. But one of the interesting things about these bequests and changes, there are a number of very wealthy former students of Christ College who have not been touched on, and who may have the ability to donate their own funds in the future to this school or to some of these trusts. People like Bill Hamilton, the founder of Hamilton Jet, who's one of New Zealand's great business people. He's a gentleman who actually ex-pupil and has done a lot of good things, not just for the school, but for the community of Christchurch and for New Zealand indeed. Great people like, in the terms of Sam Neill, the famous New Zealand actor, is another ex-pupil of the school, and actually is another person who I suspect will donate handsomely to the school, and maybe even to some of these trusts and organisations that may occur. We've had great people like Sir Charles Upham, who in New Zealand's only VC and bar. And that across the spectrum of politics, sport, business, shows you that the breadth of students that has existed across this fine institution. As I say, this bill, in terms of where we're at in the second reading, only goes to sort of help enhance probably the quality of the students in the future, just so we don't have left-handed shooters, and just so we don't have situations where I think Mrs Wagner just told me the person who got second in the hurdles, in the under-15 hurdles, was one of the scholarships that existed. Good on that person who made that scholarship an enactment, but this bill, in terms of tidy up, will mean that many students for many years to come will benefit from this bill, and I think that is a good thing. Thank you very much.